Is Jelly Roll actually sober? Oftentimes we get this question on our channel about popular celebrities and whether they're actually sober or not. A lot of celebrities and people in the limelight claim that alcohol addiction has been removed magically from them and they can return to smoking certain substances and drinking alcohol on occasion. However, we've found that as alcoholics, there's a little bit of a caveat there. So, can we be like these celebrities and continue to drink and moderate and live a life where drinking can be a normal part and we can feel great and do well? Or do we have to completely quit cold turkey, everything off the table, and act as if drinking is, as Bobby Boucher's mom says, the devil? That's what we're going to be talking about today. So I think this is a very important topic, and I think that oftentimes you will see things in celebrities and different stuff like Jelly Roll where they say they're sober, but digging into it, you might find something different. So we're going to talk about this today and go through the ins and outs of what it really means to be sober, and can you stay sober under these circumstances. So Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful, foggy day here.
All right.
Like it always has been for the past couple of months. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about sobriety here today. And Jelly Roll, famous musician, or well, singer-songwriter, really. I guess he's classified as country. He's pretty popular now. Got some pretty cool songs. Anyways, he came from he grew up in Tennessee. He came from a pretty bad background as far as he got into sort of the gang scene, but he was very into the drugs and alcohol and drinking and some bad activities, maybe not so legal activity, things like that. And he spent quite a few years of his teenage years in incarcerated. And yeah, he's been through the ringer, and something changed in him. Maybe it was the incarceration. I think that's what he refers to, is that incarceration. When he finally got out, he was like, I can never do this again. I've got to make a big change. And I can kind of relate to that as far as, well, I didn't have the incarceration issue so much, but I had to make a big change for myself to get sober. And that was changing everything. That's what he had to do. He had to change everything in his life. He had to stop hanging out with the wrong people, start hanging out with the right people, start doing the right thing every day. And that's what he had to do. I've watched quite a few of his interviews, and in his interviews, um, a lot of the interviewers, they are saying, well, what'd you do to get sober? And that kind of made me raise my eyebrow as far as, did he get sober? I don't know. Is he actually sober? I'm not sure. That's really for him to really speak on. But just from what I see, and my definition of sobriety is no alcohol, no drugs, no mind altering substances whatsoever. And that's pretty much for me. And actually, sobriety is more than that. And sobriety is living a sober life and being productive, be being having good relationships with the family and being able to support the family, things like that. And there's quite a few things involved in sobriety, for me at least. And for him, what he had to make some big changes. He had to stop doing the drugs, that's for sure. I know that he said that he's off of that stuff. And he does say that he is still drinking and and smoking. That's what he is still doing. So is that really sobriety? I wouldn't think. I would think that you'd probably all agree with me that he's not completely sober. But what he is doing nowadays, he's really big into the philanthropy. He's helping troubled kids. He's put, I don't know, he said $250,000 into a juvenile hall and things like that to try and get the kids on the right track. And for that's some pretty great stuff. But that it's sobriety is really a personal issue as far as whether you're sober or not. I know a lot of, like, when I was going through trying to get sober, I thought, maybe I could moderate a little bit and be sober most of the time, and then I could call myself sober. I don't. That didn't work for me. And that's where a lot of people have trouble in their sobriety journeys. They think they can drink a little bit. For him, was he ever really an alcoholic? I don't know. That's once again, that's something for him to decide. But from what I see, and if this is just me watching from the outside, I don't think maybe he was. He had troubles, and he did have a way of life that he had to get out of. So he did have to make some big changes in his life, like just like I did. But was he really chemically dependent? And that's what we talk about a lot on our channel. That's what we talk about in our program, is how to overcome the chemical dependency that alcohol causes. And so that's kind of what we're going to steer towards in this show today, is just trying to conquer that.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of times what happens is whether the celebrity is sober or not is kind of not really the point.
Yeah.
The point is, what do you need to do to get sober? And oftentimes these celebrities are misleading people and thinking, oh, hey, I did this or I did that. There's some popular books out there that talk about alcohol addiction, and they talk about moderating or how it's this or how it's that, rather than looking at the aspect of chemical dependency and looking at, okay, what does it look like for my life? For Terry and I, we got sober and we had to really look at alcohol had to be off the table 100%. We couldn't mess around. I couldn't have a drink on Sundays or Saturdays or after 5 or whatever it is. I had to completely get sober. Why? Because when I hit chemical dependency, I know what that chemical does to me. And I know that once I ingest even a little bit of that chemical, I'm thrown off balance enough to where I might not be able to find my way back. And this is something that's really playing with fire, where it's like, okay, I've been sober a while. Maybe I'm going to dabble in drinking. Maybe I'm going to try this out, have a drink or two. I'll probably be fine. And you know what? For the first one, you probably will be fine. You probably handle one or two. But what it's going to do to your brain and what it's going to do having it as an option. You see, once you have alcohol as an option, let's say you have a bad day. If alcohol was an option for me and I had a bad day, I would probably be a drunk. I proved it to myself time and time again. And what happens is, there's an old adage that says, the man takes a drink, the drink takes a drink, and then the drink takes the man. And that's exactly what happens. You take a drink and you're thrown off just enough to where you don't know what can happen. And who knows, maybe I can continue the rest of my life drinking alcohol safely. Perhaps. I've been sober almost 10 years. I haven't touched the stuff. I even have non-alcoholic beers and they don't bother me. I should be fine. I'm probably cured or okay. But the fact of the matter is I'm not cured or okay. That part of my life still exists, and I don't want to chance it over a couple of drinks, because that is just the mere fact of, hey, maybe I can drink again, is giving back into the alcoholic thinking. You are now nurturing that side of your brain that is susceptible to chemical dependency. And it's almost like, maybe I'll just have a little, maybe I'll just have one, maybe I'll just try this, or maybe I'll just smoke a substance instead of drinking a substance, or maybe I'll do this or that. And you're not really looking at the big picture of what's going to happen when, and what is the risk worth. And looking at that risk is super, super, super important.
Yeah, indeed. That's something that I was able to do, is I was able to overcome the insanity that alcoholism was causing. And when I talk about insanity, what I'm talking about is just the craving, the obsession. When I wasn't drinking, all I was thinking about was the alcohol. I was thinking about how to get it, how to make sure I have enough, and am I able to hide it from people? Things like that. It just consumed me. And it was just insane thinking. I don't think like that anymore. I've gotten over that. For me, that's another aspect of sobriety, is that it doesn't dominate my life. Yeah, I talk about it a lot on our shows. Yes, I do pay attention when I go to a restaurant, make sure that I'm ordering a dessert that doesn't have alcohol in it, things like that. There's things I need to be aware of, and that's because I can't have even one drop. I've proved it to myself quite a few times that I can't have one drop because every time I did, I started drinking heavily again. And I also see it with people with a decade of sobriety, people with 2 decades, 3 decades that have started drinking again and they were right back to where they were when they stopped. That's the scary thing about this, about alcohol, is that it'll get you no matter how long you wait. It's just sitting there waiting. It's waiting for you to take that drink. And that's a difficult thing to pay attention to sometimes, especially if you are having that bad day, or if you're having that big celebration and everybody's partying and you think, oh man, I need alcohol to enjoy this, when you don't. Alcohol does nothing for you. It has no benefits to us whatsoever. I enjoy many of the great events that I get to go to without alcohol. It's okay. I don't need it anymore. And it's a great way to live. And I don't have to worry about driving home. I can drive home, no problem. I don't have to worry about I'm too drunk to go to the store tonight or whatever. I get to do whatever I want at any time. And it's a freeing feeling. Just the freedom is incredible. And looks like we have a lot of our regulars here. Good to see you all. And let us know what you think about your sobriety. And Truck's asking, does non-alcoholic beer work? It really depends. What are you asking that it works for? I think for Marcus would have to answer that. I don't drink non-alcoholic beer, but it's not that I'm against it whatsoever. But I will say one thing: you need to make sure if you're going to have non-alcoholic beer that it is a 0% non-alcoholic beer, because some of them have 0.5%. But I think Marcus enjoys the taste, right?
Yeah, so I started drinking non-alcoholic beer. Started with the zeros, and your Heineken Zero, Bud Zero, Guinness Zero, which are truly zeros. There's no alcohol in them. Does it work as far as getting you a feeling that alcohol gives you? Not at all. There is a difference. I will say that when I started drinking non-alcoholic beer, I was 5 years sober, and I did have checks and balances in place. I talked to Terry about it. I talked to my family about it. That way, I was like, okay, is this going to trigger anything? For me, 5 years sober, it did not trigger anything. I was actually surprised. I thought it was going to make me want the real deal. I did not. Now I drink non-alcoholic beer quite often. I mean, it's good because for me, what I missed was the variety, and I did like beer, and I did like the taste of it and things like that. So having that, I enjoy. Does it make me want other things? It does not. Do I want to drink? Am I feeling like it's missing something? Not at all. In fact, I will express one of the dangers of non-alcoholic beer. And this is a story where my wife, my daughter, and I went to a concert in Tampa. And after the concert, my wife went back to the hotel to rest. Me and my daughter went out to a pub to get some food. And I was excited because they had one of my favorite non-alcoholic beers on the menu. So I ordered it, and she came over, and it was already in a pint glass, which I was like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe they have it on tap. I don't know. And then I had a sip, and then after I was like, wait a minute, this tastes funny. This does not taste like non-alcoholic beer. So the lady came over, and she had accidentally poured me an alcoholic beer, and I got through about that much of it, which was probably like maybe half of a beer can or a third of a beer can or something like that. It did not affect my brain other than making me worry. It's like, uh-oh, what's going on? How is this working for me? Had I been like a year sober and that experience would have happened, I probably would have drank again. In all honesty, I probably would not have been able to handle that. Now, 5 years sober, I was like, okay, there we go. David, excellent point. When I was an active alcoholic, I would get non-alcoholic beer bottles and fill them with regular beer. That was a problem. So that was something that I had to come to grips with. And drinking NA beer It's a risky thing. I would say if it is a question in your mind, don't do it. And I would also say, wait till a long time sober if you are going to try it. And then, of course, weigh the odds. I was fine without non alcoholic beer. I'd be fine if you took it away today. It's not really an issue.
And it's not like you're sitting down and drinking a 12 pack like if you were drinking regular beer, that's what you'd be doing. You're
Yeah.
enjoying a beverage is what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's mocktails and things like that. Me and my daughter went to a concert last night, and all they had was O'Doul's, which is my least favorite one. And I had two of those during the concert, and I was fine. Normally, if I was at a normal concert, I would have probably had 4 or 5 beers, and then moved on to something heavier, and probably would have driven home intoxicated, unfortunately. Which is, I don't miss that. I don't miss that at all. And chancing that over one beer is insane. Like, why would you do that? What is the point? Luckily now, I mean, for me, there are lots of options for non-alcoholic people. They are catering more to alcoholics and people who don't want alcohol. That way we can get the same feeling of paying $12 for a beer at a club as everyone else, but we don't have to have the alcohol, which does kind of feel like a ripoff. It's like, shouldn't this be cheaper? But, I digress. When has anything ever been cheaper? So
True.
that's kind of what you look at there.
Congratulations on a month, Dan. That's great. Or a month coming up this week. Good job. That's awesome. That first month, that was tough for me, man. I tell you. And Celtic Dave, yeah, you said I think non-alcoholic beer would just make me want the real thing, not interested in finding out. And that's how I was for quite a long time. And that's actually how I am for many things that might put me in what I would call a dangerous situation, where alcohol might be a trigger, or it may give me some cravings, and I just don't bother trying to find out. But as far as I am now, I could drink a non-alcoholic beer. It's not like I don't really have that attitude anymore after I'm almost 10 years sober. It's just something that doesn't interest me anymore. And as Marcus was saying, he had some safeguards there. He talked to people, let people know what he was doing, so he was straight up about it. And and I know that he's self-aware enough, and that if he had to start hiding it or something like that, he'd reach out, and that's something. If you're finding you're hiding things, then maybe that's not something you should be doing.
Yep.
Definitely. That's kind of interesting question Midas had. What is your experience with strength in your muscle growth, I think is what you're asking, with no alcohol consumption? And I lifted weights back in college and stuff like that. But really, since then, it's mostly been hiking, cycling, doing activities like that. I ran some marathons, things like that. And a lot of that was when I was still drinking. I don't run anymore as far as long distance running. That's just too hard on the body, man. Jeez. But I cycle, and I cycle a lot. And I'm stronger now than I ever have been, at this old age that I am at now. So, as far as the no alcohol consumption, did that have something to do with it? Yes, of course it did. I'm able to exercise more. I'm able to concentrate more. One of the things that I noticed in sobriety with exercise is versus when I was exercising when I was drinking, because I exercised all the time when I was drinking, is I'm more aware of what my body is going through. I know when I need to rest now. Back then, I just work out, work out, work out, work out, break the body down. Things would start to hurt. I'd drink more, whatever. I just work through it. No pain, no gain, right? And nowadays, I realize that rest is just as important as exercise itself. And not drinking alcohol helps that, because the alcohol would hide that pain. So I just keep going, and now I'm able to recover more. And that is why I'm stronger now than I ever have been in cycling. So there's my answer to that question.
Yeah. And I started working out recently. Um, and it's funny because I started eating different, working out, and I feel good all the time. Jay says, unfortunately, a lot of running groups meet at breweries. True, you don't have to drink. And what I find is that nobody cares except an alcoholic.
Yep.
You're the one that cares, not
I,
everyone else.
I'm I'm a member of a cycling club, and uh, just about every ride, and we do 200 plus rides a year, and just about every ride ends up at a restaurant, and most of the guys and gals, they have a beer, but some of us don't, and some of the people that don't, they're not alcoholics. They just don't feel like a beer. And me, I don't have one. I have a soda or whatever. I don't need to. It's okay.
Yep, exactly. And I find that as alcoholics, we make it such a big deal in our brain, and it's not. It is not a big deal in real life at all. We just think it is.
Right. But
Yeah.
back to Jelly Roll, it's pretty amazing what he's done. I mean, he's obviously become very successful. I don't know if any of you know about him. I'm sure you do if you've watched any of the countries on basically every country music award show. There's the all those people that do the same ones every time, and he's on all of them definitely. But he's really done a lot for himself and just reaching out. And that's one thing that I try to do in sobriety as well is I try to help others, and that's it helps me in my sobriety, me talking about the issues that I may have gone through and what I go through to stay sober, and helping you guys. And what he's done to get out of his old way of life is he's helping people that are in his old way of life, and he's helping them change. And that's a big thing. And fortunately for him, he's got the money to actually help them do that. So it's a real good thing. And I think he's got a good head on his shoulder. And he actually spoke to Congress about the fentanyl crisis in America. And he proclaimed that he's not affiliated with either of the big parties in the U.S., and that he's just, in fact, that he's not even allowed to vote. So he's just speaking from the heart, and he spoke from the heart, and he made some really good points about the crisis and what needs to happen. So yeah.
All right, cool deal. Did you want to talk about our sobriety class over at talksober.com?
Sure. Yeah, we have a program over at talksober.com, and go check it out. Um, we have a 30-day program, and it has video and some MP3s and a little quiz or worksheet you can work on, and what to do from that day, like day one to day two, to help keep yourself sober. And you can just work your way through it. It's designed to be a 30-day program, but you can take as much time as you want with it. And you just go over there and click on the link and sign up there. You can also get a private sobriety call with Marcus and myself. And we also have a Facebook group you can join. That part's free. Just sign up, and I'll check and make sure that you are a real person, and let you join. And back to our sobriety class or program, and we talk about a lot of the same things that we talk about here on our YouTube channel, only get into much more detail. And what we talk about is how to um, how to get over the alcohol obsession, the proper thinking, and changing your perspective towards life and alcohol. And that's what it's all about, is just changing that perspective and understanding what alcohol is and what alcoholism is, which is chemical dependency. And it's a difficult thing to get over sometimes. And sometimes it's actually easier to get over the initial dependency, and it's harder to stay sober. And that's what we really concentrate on, is staying sober over a long period of time. So go on over there and check it out.
All right, guys, thanks for being here. And Head over to talksober.com and we'll see you next week.